you do all of this. Everything what I'm just saying is basically like a form of reminding the triple gems. By the way, Jamdo, or the taking refuge, the quintessence of taking refuge is remembering the triple gem. In fact, there is a short sutra recollection of the triple gems. Remembering the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha is actually the quintessential form of taking refuge. And when I say remembering the Buddha, many of us immediately think that when you remember the Buddha, you have to sort of go from A to Z. Like first you have to make the throne, and then you ask, you tell the Buddhas to come, sit here, make offerings, all that ritual. You don't have to. Even at any point in your day, maybe when you're entering to a restaurant, a moment of thinking name of the Buddha Shakyamuni, not even chanting Tathayata Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni, so not even that, just remembering the Buddha's name, or some kind of an incident or an account of the Buddha, such as him talking to Subhuti, or him folding his robes, or him walking bare feet, begging bowl in the Magadha street, begging alms. Him teaching in the presence of him teaching surrounded by all the Kornabashi, we call it four supreme disciples. Something like that. Remembering the Dharma, all compounded things are impermanent, all emotions are pain, something like that. Just remember that. So, you don't have to do it, of course. This is my suggestion, but there's this question, like how should we practice the Dharma and sort of lead our life? So we have some kind of a formula, like morning or in the evening you allocate a time or a place, like a shrine, and allocate about like 7:30 in the evening or 6 in the morning before you go to work. You sit in the shrine and chant some mantras and like finish the mantras 100 times or something like that, which is good. I'm saying this is good. But I would suggest, when you finish your breakfast, when you finish the morning prayers, as you walk towards, as you go in the taxi, or as the day unfolds, if you think about Buddha folding his robe, count one. Count as one. And then somewhere, maybe after a big argument with your friend, or after a big bargaining with the shop, you think about all compounded things are impermanent. Count as two. So maybe you can discipline yourself thinking. You can discipline yourself. This week, you try to think of the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, even in the toilet, by the way. Yes? Don't never ever limit that this is one place where I should not be thinking about the Buddha. There's no such thing. Take shower, whenever. At that time, if you think, count mentally, count. So maybe this week, not during that, official allocated practice time, not that time, just during the course of the day, if you think about the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, maybe this week about 5 times a day. Then next week you add one more. So if you gradually add remembering the triple gem, there's just no way that you will be attached to this knowledge. There's no way that you will not be understanding the Maya. What happens then? As you remember the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha again and again. See, it's, as Shantadeva said, you just have to get used to it. Everything. You have to get used to it. And by the way, my advice, never ever again, now that I've said this, never ever hold a mala and try to think of the Buddha 50 times in a row, by count. And then finish it and then think about it. That doesn't work. Actually, it's good, but better inserting this remembering the Buddha at very odd times, unexpectedly. You try to insert the remembrance of the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. Especially maybe most unlikely places and most unlikely times, like time when somebody scores the ball, for instance. Try to remember that. Really, by doing that, as you develop this, what will happen? You will remember that Dharma, such as all compounded things are impermanent. Okay, so what's the effect? What's the point? What's the benefit of remembering the Dharma? Of course, enlightenment aside, there's as you remember the triple gem again and again, the benefit, enlightenment aside, your attitude towards the life changes. For instance, what used to be such a big deal is not a big deal anymore. What used to really stir you does not stir you. What really makes you, what used to make you go crazy, such as fame or criticism or a gain or loss, slowly, you have no difference with them. So slowly, 8 worldly dharmas, we call it, you will begin to see, criticism and praise. Not a big deal. I think you will not make a big deal out of this, praise, criticism. You will not a big deal about gain and loss. When you reach to this stage where you don't make a big deal out of these things, you are becoming a Dharma practitioner. You have become a very good manager of life, everything is fine. If it works out, good. If it doesn't work out, that's also good. So, the life is no stress, economical, happy, and then people look at you, you are easygoing, friendly, because you have no agenda. Nothing really sort of, makes you go crazy. So you are very likable person to be with. Whatever you say will make a big impact on them. Then you are beginning to become quite a effective bodhisattva. And this is something that we can do. And we must try to do. And so this is just I try to make some notes, but I'm a really bad reader of my own notes. I can't even read my own handwriting. I can't read. It doesn't make any sense, actually. These are like, what do you call it? Just a few practical, I hope, practical things that we can do in order to practice sensation and chakamin. That if you have attachment to this life, you are not a Dharma practitioner. So, how should one become a Dharma practitioner? How should one slowly abandon the attachment to this life? Discipline, which is begin with taking refuge. And then after that, after taking the refuge, or after really applying the refuge as your practice, after disciplining yourself with the triple gem, what do we then do? Or not only after it's not like time cases here. So what else can we do? What else should we do? Thesam gomsam, hearing, contemplation, and meditation. So here, Disney Dr. Jensen is poking us again. So some JV council is scheduled to belong to the Marixi Dimension, Dorajam belonging to Church of Tosam method with the Sendilation to Tosam, Major belonging to Tosam, Mana Yavas, Tosam than the Tazos in Kodam, so much in Yadu to be thought in Church, Tosam Shola shop. Tosam method. It is indispensable. Hearing and contemplation is indispensable. Someone who is trying to engaging into hearing and contemplation means someone who is acquiring the enlightened wealth. This is quite an important point, by the way. Marik said it, someone who is doing the hearing and contemplation must do it in order to dispel the ignorance. Someone who is doing the hearing and contemplation must do it so that what you are hearing and what you are contemplating will benefit others. Lastly, we should do the hearing and contemplation. Most importantly, we should do the hearing and contemplation so that this hearing and contemplation will become the seed of the Dharmakaya. So important, all this, because when we do the hearing and contemplation, we are trying to finish our PhD, we are trying to finish our thesis, doctorate degrees or something like that. We are trying to become a smart person, well-informed, well-read, well-read person. That's again attachment to this life, isn't it? Basically, hearing and contemplation, we do it not for degrees, not for your career. Also, when we practice, when we do the hearing and contemplation, instead of this hearing and contemplation going against the ignorance, you suddenly become kind of very proud, like egoistic. But this is one big problem with Rinpoches like myself, Khenpos, learned monks, so-called learned monks, and then now this is of course being transferred to many Western, European, American, Chinese, Buddhist students, instructor or a teacher or stuff like that. Yes, to the certain extent, many of these students or teachers, whatever you want to call them, they have gathered a lot of information. It's like they study diligently, but because they have studied and contemplated diligently with the motivation of really wanting to, build their image, build their basically whatever they are doing is not really going against the ego, against the ignorance. You see lots of problems. There's so, I was talking about so many lamas and, all this, with His Holiness and all of that title problems, all looking for titles and all of that. Also in the West, all these, people who have done maybe, 3 years retreat, who knows what they've been doing in the 3 years retreat. And when they come out, suddenly they become because, spiritual matters it has a good market these days. As long as sentient beings' emotion is exhausted, there will always be a spiritual business. As long as sentient beings with the emotion and insecurity is there, you should never fear that a spiritual business will run out. There will be no credit crunch. In fact, when there's an economic problem, actual economic problem, the world problem, that is the time the spiritual business grows more, because everybody is more depressed and everybody is more troubled. so far I haven't really managed, because my face is kind of known within the Tibetan circle, so I couldn't really do it within the Tibetan circle, but I have, in disguise, incognito, went to some of the Western Buddhist teachers' teaching. In their teachings, I've paid a lot, by the way. And I must say, as far as most of them, as far as the information that they are delivering is quite good. Really, it's improving all the way. Because they are quite learned. Really, I was very impressed. But, I don't know, it's again, like the Manchester United thing, it's my perception, of course. The insecurity which is coming from the, pride, is just oozing out from there. Instead of the halo, they have this from the shoulders, and it's coming out. So this is really, knowledge is a very dangerous thing. Hearing and contemplation, as much as you should do it really to combat the ignorance, not to increase more. Actually, in Tibetan, we have a saying, "Tata Sheri Durva." If you have heard and contemplate, the sign of this person is someone who is really humble and someone who is really learned. We should take a tea break.